Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome. I am Coach Sherry. Please put a one in the chat if you can hear me. I'm having some technical difficulties again with my StreamYard. Let's see. I see there's quite a few people in the building. I hope you are ready to start and have this conversation. I want to welcome in Smart Cookie. It's a Terrence kind of thing. Hey, how are you? How are you? Thank you for being here. I see Derek's Journey. Great to see you. Great to see you. Thanks for being here as well. Let's see. It looks like we have almost a full house. Okay, good. Smart Cookie, you can hear me. I am trying to understand this StreamYard. I am having some real challenges with it. But just bear with me. As long as you can hear me, that really is all that matters. So I appreciate that. I see everyone is speaking to everyone, and that is great. So, as you can see from the title of this live, we're going to be talking about what is the best marriage advice that you have received. Now, everyone may not be married, but I'm sure that you've heard of something that people have always told newlyweds, something that someone may have talked about at the wedding. And what was that advice? We're going to go over that because I just went to a wedding a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking about the advice that my mother had given me when I got married. Next month will be 28 years. And I was like, you know what? That advice is exactly what my mother had shared with me. And I had been thinking about it lately because that advice really wasn't just for my marriage, it also pertains to my inner circle. So, how you deal with your family and friends, that's your inner circle. The things that you share with them or the things that you don't share with them, absolutely. Thank you. It's a Terrence kind of thing for liking and sharing this live stream out. I really appreciate that support. Oh, I I am having some technical difficulties. I need someone, a producer, to help me because I'm having a hard time. I see Black Guns and Gardens is in the building. I'm glad to see you here. Oh, the 49ers lost. Oh my goodness. Let me see. All right. Let me just bear with me for 1 second, please. I can't seem to move my mouse. For some reason, it seems to be locked. Oh my goodness. Bear with me, please. How do you unlock it? All right. Well, we're going to have to rock like this for a while because I cannot unlock my mouse. So just bear with me. All right. So, just talking about marriage, yes, people are still getting married. I was really happy to go to that wedding a couple of weeks ago, and it was so beautiful. Oh, my goodness. And I know that, people don't typically think about the advice that they get until they need it. And I don't want people to look at relationships or marriages and say, I wish my marriage was like that, or I wish or I know my relationship or my marriage will never be like that. Because, first of all, no two marriages are the same. And no, it's not wireless, Smart Cookie. No two marriages are the same. So you definitely have to treat yours specific to you and your spouse because that is what matters. And so, like I said, I went to that beautiful wedding and it was a young couple that were getting married. I'm seeing a lot more older people. They've already established their careers. It may be, they never thought they would get married, but now here they are in their late 40s, early 50s getting married. But this couple, they've just been out of college, maybe a couple of years, and they're starting their careers and starting their life together as husband and wife. I thought it was really beautiful. I hadn't attended one like that in a while. So the matron of honor, who was the sister of the bride, you know how the maid of honor, matron of honor, best man, they give the toast and they are welcoming the family members in to, and talking about maybe an experience that they've had with each other. maybe the meeting, if they were there when the couple met, they may talk about a story like that. Well, the matron of honor, the bride's sister, she gave her advice, and she's been married for about 15 years now. I was surprised that she's been married that long because I just remember her when she was born. But she gave the same advice to this new couple that my mother gave to me. Just it was my mother and I was getting ready for my wedding. It was actually that morning of my wedding. And my mother was just giving me some last minute motherly advice, and I will never forget it. My mother said to me almost 28 years ago, she said, oh my goodness. So my mother said to me, she said, as her child, she will always pray for me, and now also for my husband. She said, don't come to me when things don't go your way. Don't come to me. Don't come to your father. Don't come to us when things don't go your way or with your disagreements, because you are my child, and I may hold it against him long after you've forgiven him, because you and him share a bed. And I was like, wow, that's so deep. Like, mom, if I remember saying to her, if I can't come to you and dad, then who do I go to? And she said, go to the Lord and talk it out with each other. And all these years later, I adhered to that advice. And so did my husband. He didn't go to his parents either with anything that we had going on. We'd always go to God and we talk it out with each other. It wasn't for us to share with our friends, with our siblings, with our cousins. It was for us to figure out together. And this way, we didn't entangle people into our situation. And just like my mother said, we sleep together. So we may forgive each other that night, that next morning, who knows? And the person that we told it to will hold that grudge, will always look at that person a different way. So I really thought that that was really, for me, the best advice that I received in my marriage. And let me go back to the chat. I see everyone is still talking. Okay, Smart Cookie is saying that's amazing that marriage is still alive. I know, I know. For me, it's been 28 years, but it feels like maybe 10 years. I don't know. I don't feel like I've gotten older. I don't feel like he's gotten older, but yeah, it's been 28 years. And it's nice and it's beautiful actually to see people still getting married, still respecting that union. Yes, and Black Guns and Gardens is saying the best marriage advice that I received was to keep family and friends out of your marital business. Yes, and that is very similar to the advice that my mother gave me. Definitely keeping them out of your business. And so many people, because when you're in a marriage, it can feel like, well, it definitely is you and your partner against the world for sure. Um, and so some people, when there's a challenge in the marriage, they want to turn to other people just to vent, just to get another point of view. But your marriage, there is no other point of view. It's between the husband, the wife, and again, God. He's the one that put that union together. So it is not for others to share their thoughts. I mean, unless you're going to a marriage counselor, but even then, they still they give you open-ended questions. And, that's how they do that. Okay, Black Guns and Gardens is saying it has worked for us for 23 years. Absolutely. See, always Tam. Tam is in the building. Thank you so much for being here this evening. And Smart Cookie is agreeing, yes, go to God with it. Absolutely. And trust me, if you and your partner cannot agree to go to God with your situation, then you may have a bigger problem than you even know. And let's see, Smart Cookies also is saying that's excellent advice. Tammy sees life. Hello, welcome. Welcome into the building. Thank you for being here. And Tammy sees life is saying that she has been married. They've been married for 33 years. That is so awesome. All right. Smart Cookie is saying, unfortunately, my marriage only lasted 5 years. Well, it not only lasted, you had a marriage for 5 years, Smart Cookie. So, just count those 5 years. I hope they were a blessing, or they were a blessing if you learned something from it, for sure. Anytime you can walk away from something, whether it's successful or not, as long as you have gained new knowledge and a new understanding, that's valuable. And Tammy is saying, always communicate. Yes, that is great advice as well. Communication is definitely key. They always say closed mouths don't get fed. Well, closed mouths also don't produce a great relationship. So I'm going to go back and see if I can add some of my things that I have that I wanted to put on here. I don't know why my things are not better with putting myself on the screen. I don't know what's going on with these layers here on StreamYard, but I'm doing them like that. My pre-recorded videos, you will see my face, or you'll see me sharing different parts of Charlotte, North Carolina, or other parts of the country that I visit. Also, I will do shorts. I have shorts, I have remixes. So my channel is about business, career, and lifestyle. So it's all connected. Your personal and professional self is all one. So I definitely share with you a lot of things. I do motivation and empowerment. So I hope that you definitely find something on here that you really enjoy. Thank you for being here. Yes, and Smart Cookie is saying, I learned a lot and received beautiful, amazing children. And that's the true gift right there. Those beautiful, amazing children. Absolutely, Smart Cookie. Definitely. Pandy's Hair Candy and More is in the building. Thank you for being here. I hope you're having a great day. You and the four of you actually had great lives today where you were shouting out members of your channel. That was an awesome, awesome contribution that you made to those channels. A lot of times when you are a member of a channel, they may do a lot of things with just their members, but Pandy, Marlene Motivates, Boss Life Online, and Be Amazing Sylvia are very generous, and they do their channel shout outs for their members live to everyone, so everyone can see and be privy to who they are shouting out. So I definitely appreciate that. Smart Cookie is saying, you are doing well with the channel. Keep the content coming. I will. Let me tell you, Smart Cookie, I've been on YouTube for many, many years, first as a viewer. And then about 3 years ago, I really decided to rev it up and produce more content. And I realized, you have to really connect yourself with other great content creators, join different tribes. There's different avenues here on YouTube. And I was very fortunate to connect with some great, great YouTubers. But I got really burnt out. I was not pacing myself properly because I have a dynamic lifestyle outside of YouTube, and I just was not doing work-life balance well enough. And so I got burnt out. I took a year off, and let me tell you, that year coming back has been a struggle, but I am here and I definitely will keep the content coming. Tammy is saying, mine is sharing my everyday life and my crazy American bully. Oh my goodness. You have an American bully? That is one of my favorite breeds of dogs. I can't wait to see your American bully. We were a boxer family. We had a boxer as our trial baby for the first 3.5 years of our marriage before we started having children. And I just love that type of breed, that muscle type of dog. I love it. Yes, Marlene is amazing. If you all don't know Marlene Motivates, she's an amazing channel as well. Absolutely, Pandy. You are amazing. Yes, burnout can be real. So definitely protect your energy. Do what you can. And these shorts are really a lifesaver. Literally, I'm just getting over the flu. I was down for the past 2 weeks, and the remixes really helped me to be able to still upload content by reimagining some of my older long form videos and creating them into remixes. Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Pandy, for welcoming everyone. Thank you so much. All right, so let's go back to the topic of what is the best advice you received, because I'm also going to give you some suggestions of best advice, especially if you find yourself being a maid of honor or a matron of honor or a best man to an upcoming wedding, or just to have this conversation with your own spouse, something to reflect on and to redirect what you are doing. So, when I was telling you about the advice that my mother gave me, and my mother and father were married for 51 years before my mother passed, and my in laws were married for, I believe, 47 years maybe before my father in law passed. And so my husband and I both come from a long line of married parents, but because of the love that my mother showed my husband, he always referred to her as Queen Moms. And because she was so authentic with her love and she only wanted the best for both of us, literally until her last days on earth, my mother would periodically tell me that my husband is my soulmate. And she said it for many reasons, but mostly because of what she witnessed and felt in our presence. You know how a person walks into a room and they just have this aura. And I believe that my mother felt the aura between my husband and I, especially as we cared for her the last couple of years as she lived with ALS. And she could see how we were partners in everything that we did, from caring for her to caring for our children and for each other. And that really led her to always remind me, he's your soulmate. So, what is the best marriage advice you ever heard? I know a few of you have shared some here in the chat, and please feel free to continue to share what is the best marriage advice that you've ever heard. So, here are some advice nuggets that I want to share with you. Now, you'll hear me periodically refer to things as nuggets. I believe nuggets are valuable pieces of information or a valuable experience that you may have had. And oftentimes, those nuggets get buried under dirt because you don't realize how valuable they are. Now, in order to capture these valuable nuggets, I encourage you to get a pen and paper out so that you can write them down and refer to them later. I don't mind you coming back to this video and watching the replay. And absolutely, if you are watching this as a replay, welcome. Thank you for being here. Be sure to leave comments down below and let me know some of your best marriage advice. But get your pen and paper together so that you can capture these nuggets. And again, talk to them with your partner. If you are maybe not married but thinking about getting married again, this is a conversation you can have amongst your friends. Like I said, when you're married, no, you don't discuss your marriage challenges with your friends and family. But if you're just talking about marriage in general, this will be great conversations to have. So the first one is a piece of advice, or a nugget, is to accept and allow. So that's the thing. People will have more cons than pros with someone that they are getting ready to get married to. Now, you might be saying, wait, more cons than pros? Yeah, they have more things that they find wrong with that person than they do right. Well, if you can't accept that, then you need to reconsider getting married, because that person's not going to change. So many people think, oh, once we get married, things are going to look a lot different. Oh, once we get married, oh, I'm going to reel in those spending habits. Oh, once we get married, oh, no, he's not going to go to his mama's house as much. No, that is who that person is 9 times out of 10. And you have to accept it and allow it or not. And if it's a not, then you need to move on. Don't Don't think that they're going to change, get married, and they're still doing those same habits, but now you are mad, disgruntled, and you're running to family and friends to complain about it. Because when they're not doing the things that you don't like, when they're doing the things that you like most, your family and friends aren't going to know that. They're going to remember the things that you were disgruntled about. So always know that a person is really not going to change much after marriage. So it's really important to accept who they are and allow them to be their authentic self. Absolutely, once you get married, there will be some things that will change, some new habits that will be formed, but the value system of that person will basically remain the same. So you definitely need to understand that and determine if that is something that you're going to accept. And I see Life with Marlene is in the building. Thank you so much for being here. And everyone is saying hello. And let's see. Pandy is saying, oh, she's saying hello again. All right, perfect. Thank you. Oh, let me put in, because I know that as people are writing, they may forget exactly what we're talking about. So, number one is accept and allow. So, that is one of the marriage advice nuggets that I want to share. The second one is to crack jokes. Laughter is so good for the soul. It really is. And, oftentimes when you're dating, things are funny. You see things with these bright, rosy eyes, and life is just golden. But then as you get married and more responsibilities, maybe financial responsibilities, or just the wear and tear of your day to day balancing work and life, the jokes aren't as funny anymore, or they're not as frequent. So it's really important to laugh. Don't take things so seriously. I know for my husband and I, what saved us a lot was our children, because kids will say and do the craziest things. And I'm so glad that my husband and I share the same sense of humor, where we find things similar, funny, that maybe some people wouldn't. But always remember that. Don't look at it like, oh, I'm of a certain age, I can't laugh at those things anymore. No, you're never too old or too young to laugh and just enjoy those funny moments. When we first moved to Charlotte, that was the first time that we lived in the same time zone and on the same coast as our family. We've always been a plane ride away from everyone. So we Charlotte to New Jersey and New York is still a long drive. It's like 10 to 11 hours, but we would pack the kids up in the truck and take that ride, and we would listen to we would listen to like Ricky Smiley's prank calls, or different comedians, and just crack up. Sometimes we would have to pull over. That's how hard we would laugh. And of course, we would wait till the kids would sleep. And I don't know how they slept through our laughter, because we would drive through the night, and that also helped us stay up. But just find those things that really bring you joy. We enjoy going to comedy shows and things like that. So don't lose that just because you're married. I remember when I was pregnant with our first child, and my son, he was actually born in New Orleans. My husband was playing with the New Orleans Saints at the time. And I remember during the off season, it might have been March, February or March, and we went home and we got tickets to I believe it was the Kings of Comedy, if I'm not mistaken. It was at Madison Square Garden. Oh my goodness, we had amazing seats. My brothers and their wives came. My sister-in-law and her boyfriend at the time came. We got a limousine and we just went. It was so much fun. And I just remember thinking, I'm going to laugh this baby out because it was just a good time. And it's something that we, periodically will reflect on those moments when we went to comedy shows like that. And let's see, I see Marlene is saying, my dad told me how they are, it will get worse, because if you can't handle it now, it's not improving, usually, unless they decide to. And so I know you're probably talking about the first one, which is accept and allow. Absolutely. And Pandy is agreeing with you too. I see Vernell is in the building. Welcome, welcome. And she is saying the value system will always grow with each other and as individuals. You always still need your individual self as well as unity, and always date each other. Never stop. Absolutely. Continue to date each other. I remember, because we didn't have children for the first 3.5 years, I felt like I was married to my boyfriend. And it was just so much fun because we didn't have children. Yeah, yeah, we had our trial baby, our puppy, but we could wake up, take a nap, wake up at midnight or 1 o'clock and say, "You want to go to the movies? Yeah, let's go." And it was just so cool that I was doing that with my husband. There's nothing better than that. Thank you so much, Domo and Nini, for sharing. I appreciate you so much for being here. Hope you're having a great, great Sunday. Thank you so, so much. And I see everyone is speaking in the building. I appreciate that. And yes, everyone is speaking. I'm just going to go down here a little bit more. Yes, everyone is speaking. Smart Cookie is saying, I love the don't stop dating each other. Yes, that is great advice. And that's actually, I don't think I have that on my list. So definitely capture that in your notes as one of the nuggets. Thanks again, Pandy, for welcoming everyone in. I appreciate that. Hey, good RX Nails. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Hope you had a wonderful Saturday. I'm sure you were busy for sure. And your boy Smooth is in the building. Thank you. If you haven't checked any of these content creators that are in this live out, I encourage you to scroll up, capture their names so that you can go out later and check out their content, check out their channels. They are all dynamic. Your boy Smooth, he has some great beats. If you just want to have some background music that you can just chill to, be in the cut with, he definitely has it for you. Yes, thank you. Oh, RX Nails, thank you so much for sharing this out. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate everyone for being here because you could have been anywhere. It is Sunday, 6:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you absolutely could have been anywhere, but you decided to chill with Coach Sherry. So thank you so much. Absolutely. Yes. And I'm having a great day. I am. My Sunday has been wonderful, and I hope everyone's has as well. And Domo and Nini, I hope you had a great Sunday. All right. So, number two, like I said, is crack jokes. Let's see what the next one is. Number three, don't be so stubborn. Hmm. Don't be so stubborn. I'm sure somebody probably shifted in their seat as I read this one because that that is a challenge for many people or for many different reasons. So the last word is not always the best word. You have those people in conversations that they just have to say that last word, or they just won't budge on their ideas. They just won't think, dare to dream or dare to think differently. Well, focus on making mutual decisions with your spouse in your marriage. Make mutual decisions. If you've been independent for a long period of time, sometimes making mutual decisions can be challenging because you're just so used to deciding on your own. But when you have a spouse, definitely consider their thoughts, their desires. They may have had other intentions. And it's not about arguing, it's about talking it out. Arguments aren't necessary. However, constructive conversations are. I don't really recall my husband and I having arguments. We may have had conversations and our voices may have risen just slightly, but most of our conversations have been very constructive. Just having an open mind as you're going into having this conversation. If every discussion becomes more than constructive, then you need to increase your self-awareness. And as you increase your self-awareness, like, why am I showing up like this? Why am I feeling so defensive every time this happens, or every time he says this or she says that? That you need to become more self-aware of that. And once you become self-aware, you'll then be able to do better at self-management, managing your thoughts, managing your feelings when those situations arise. That is so important. not just in your personal life, but also in your professional life. Those are soft skills. Those are essential skills that you need in all areas of your life. You can't be a great or active listener at work or in your business, but yet when you come home, people need to say less to you. You can't hear what they're saying. You could care less what they're saying. That doesn't flow. That's not even fair to the loved ones, to the person that said I do to you. That's not even fair. Why would you treat strangers or people that you do not have that covenant with better than the person that you committed your life with in front of God and possibly witnesses? So you really need to consider that in terms of not being so stubborn. Let's see. In the chat, I'm just going to go back up. Let me see. I really need to do better with my technology. Okay. All right. So let's see. Smart Cookie is saying a lot of people of today just love to give up and treat marriage as though it is a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. Right. Now, dating and feeling as if you are married to your boyfriend or girlfriend is one thing. Excuse me, but actually treating that person as a boyfriend or girlfriend is another. And marriage, when you say I do, you should not be thinking about when you're going to say I don't. And that's how it is with a boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, there's no true commitment, so it's just fly by night, easy breezy. But you really have to know that union, that paper you sign, that marriage certificate license, it really means something. And Pandy is agreeing with that. Oh, absolutely, your boy Smooth, no problem. RX is saying yes, very busy. Birthday dinner with friend last night. I hope you had a good time. That's always a good time for sure. Um, and Domo and Nini is saying laugh out loud and always stubborn, but not all the time. Well, used to be. All right. Well, the first thing part of my coaching is abundance intelligence. I'm sure you all are familiar with emotional intelligence, but abundance intelligence is to first see it. So the fact that you're saying, you're always stubborn or you used to be, that means you see it. You recognize that within yourself. So that's the first stage of doing something better, moving forward. So that's good. Thank you for sharing that and being so transparent. Life with Marlene has said you don't have to always be right. You don't. I mean, trust me, a person that is struggling to always be right, their life is going to be a struggle. They will always feel some kind of way inside, and just to let go, and sometimes just you knowing that you're right without even saying it, that brings you peace. And just give that person some grace. Let them move forward how they think sometimes, or get it out. And it doesn't always have to be, well, I'm right and you're wrong. It really does not. Smart Cookie is saying, I think people are stubborn because they are afraid of not being respected down the line. You're right. And again, that is part of self awareness. So I don't want to get too deep in it, but there's a cognitive cycle, and it starts with your beliefs. And your beliefs are formed according to the bed you were bred in. It's according to the experiences you had growing up, or some things that may have occurred in your life. And because of that, you form how you will deal with other people and other situations. But once you realize that your beliefs may not always be right for every situation, you'll find yourself being less stubborn, because not all of the things that you think are to be are perfect for that moment. And so that's why, even if it is a constructive conversation, sometimes you might have to step back, and kind of like what Marlene was saying, you don't always have to be right. So that means you're stepping back and just hear out what that person is saying. Someone could be dead wrong, but if they have a compelling reason, a debate for why they believe what they're wrong at is right, then you know what? Kudos to them. But you just have to know that it's not a personal thing. That moment, that conversation does not define who an individual is. It's just in that moment that they may be having that that situation or that challenge. And Vernell is saying sometimes silent is the best answer when you have spoken your side of the story, because God will work it out for you. Absolutely. One of the last meaningful um precious moments, I want to say, one of the last life lessons that my mother ever gave me was to not worry about anything because God sees everything. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to scream at the roof, off the roof, about something that you're so mad at or disgruntled about, or you just feel like the louder you are, the more a person will hear you. Sometimes the louder you are, people really don't hear you. They just hear that Charlie Brown teacher, want, 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 want. So you're just exerting energy and just exhausting yourself and possibly causing yourself some health issues over it. And it is really not worth it at the end of the day. It really is not. Oh, it's a lot of comments. I'm trying not to go too fast. Okay, let's see. Pandy is saying marriage is a give and take, and both parties have to be open, compromise, face red heart. Oh, you know what, Pandy? My I don't know if you see this when you're on StreamYard, but it's telling me what the emoji is. It's not showing me. So instead of it being a red heart, it's saying face red heart shape, which is so crazy. But you're right, compromise, definitely. And Life with Marlene is saying, my brother told me when one person is talking, don't speak, listen to them. Yes. And in many professional environments, that's how it is. When you're at a meeting, a business meeting, or with upper level management executive type meetings, if you are at the table making a huge deal, that's how it's done. People are very patient. The higher level you are, you'll find more patience. People respect, they listen, and then they say what they're going to say. There's no rush, and it doesn't mean that it's going to prolong the conversation. It just is a matter of respect. And it is a beautiful thing. More people really need to exercise that and practice that, to listen first, then to respond. And don't respond like you're jumping double dutch. Some people listen so until they hear their cue to jump in. That's not what listening is about. Listening is really about hearing what the other person is saying. So you're not just waiting for them to put that last period on that sentence. You're really trying to listen for understanding. And maybe when you do interject, you are reiterating some of the things that they just said, so that back to them, so that they will know that you have been listening. Like saying something similar to, so what I'm hearing you say, or it sounds like you're really meaning it to be like this. And that really helps promote a more productive conversation. All right. And Vernell is saying your brother was right about that, Marlene. Vernell's also saying in the Bible is a soft spoken gets across better than aggression. That's in James chapter 1. Thank you, Vernell, for mentioning that. Absolutely. It's not the loudest at all. At all. Yeah, definitely. Smart Cookie is saying, in my most recent relationship, I got to a point to where I just didn't want to listen because he lied so much. That's how I knew it was time to leave. Yes. So I know for me, lying is definitely a game changer. I mean, even with my workforce development participants, my clients, anyone I do business with, people in my personal life, especially, if I can't look at you and know that what you're telling me is true, I really don't have much to say, much to do with that. I can't, because I have so much going on. I need to know that the things you're telling me are true. I don't need to have to decipher whether or not half of it is true or if most of it is false. I need to know that you are taking the time out to communicate with me and what you're saying is absolutely true. Otherwise, I'm just done and I don't have time. That's a waste of time. So I definitely understand how you feel about that, Smart Cookie, for sure. Oh my goodness. And Vernell is saying people confuse stubbornness with standing your ground. Right. And that those are two different things. Oh my goodness. Smart Cookie, my mom always says that God know all and see all. Yes, he does. My mother said, don't worry about anything because God sees everything. I will never, ever forget that. Never. Pandy is saying, yes, it spells out the. That's so crazy, Pandy. I never knew that. I never knew that. But some emojis I see. Oh, it's me. Angie B is in the building. So, for instance, I see the waved hand. I see the smiley face. Hello. Thank you for being here for your first time. I know that we are connected, but I'm glad that you're here in this live. Thank you. Everyone is saying hello to It's Me, Angie B. Perfect. Thank you. OG Brand is in the building. Hello. Yes, power prayer will change everything. And you know the thing is when you pray, you don't have to knock it over the head with the same prayer. God heard you the first time. When you go to a restaurant, do you tell the waitress your order time and time again? No. And so that is how prayer is. And some people get so impatient and they don't realize that God heard you, and maybe what you want or what you need to have changed, you're not ready for it. Because when He gives you what you prayed for, it is always right on time. I didn't want to say right on time because that sounds like, that's something we always hear, but it is so true. Yes, and God does love us all. Let me tell you, my Father, God, loves me so much, and I know that. And sometimes, well, all the time when I think about it, it just puts a smile on my face because it tickles me. Like, God loves me so much, and He loves all of us so much. Absolutely. It's me, Angie, is saying that I have been married 36 years. Good. That's awesome. And her best advice was sometimes you have to have a misunderstanding to come to an understanding. All right. For those of you that have your pen and paper out, you need to write that one down because that is great advice. Everything does not always come together, but yet you still can make it work. So that is some good advice for sure. Oh my goodness. I'm glad I put it up here so that when people are watching the replay, they can also see it. Thank you for sharing that. It's me, Angie. And let's see. Vernell is saying, and listening is putting yourself in someone else's shoes to see their side of the story. Yes, and that is an exercise that I do with a lot of trainings that I do is put yourself in the other person's shoe because we have to have grace with one another and empathy and compassion and just understanding their point of view. It may not be your point of view, but you don't know what their situation was at the time or in the past, and just having that level of understanding and seeing it from their side, putting yourself in their shoes is so powerful. So powerful. I've even learned to do that with my young adult children. My children, my youngest will be 21 in March, but 20, 22 and 24, and their experiences are different than what my experiences and my husband's experiences are, and I've come to really immerse myself in the things that they are living with. I also train on generational diversity because we have 5 generations walking around that are, being gainfully employed, that are in the workforce right now, and understanding the things that those 5 generations lived through, things that developed them into who they are, their understanding of life is so important. So definitely putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And OG Brand is saying God will answer your prayers. He will. He will. And you have to really believe that. You have to have definitely more faith than fear in that, and know that He heard you and He will answer when you are ready for sure. People are quick to forget that without God, there is no marriage. He created marriage. He did. That's a sacred union. Yes. Oh, I see Evangeline is in the building. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you for being here, for joining us this evening for this conversation. Thank you. Life with Marlene is saying, yes, I've heard sometimes you have to agree to disagree. We are all different, and sometimes we won't agree, but we listen and let them have their say. That's wisdom. That is. That is. I don't care if you grew up next door to your spouse. That's not happening a lot nowadays. Now people are marrying people that are from different coasts, different countries. So they've had different experiences, different things that have shaped them and formed them and their ideas. So, that's why communication is so important too. And to understand that everything you won't agree on. Yes. Thank you again, Pandy, for welcoming everyone in. Yes. Thank you so much. And O'Brien is saying that Marlene is silly. All right. God sits high and yes, and looks low. He does. Yes, definitely. All right. So that's number three. Don't be stubborn. Let's look at what number four is. I love the advice that you all are giving because these are not things that I have on my list to share with you tonight. So we're all, increasing our list together. So number four is make sure your compasses are aligned. We all are trying to navigate this thing called life. And once you are married, you're navigating that with your spouse. So you really want to make sure that your compasses are always aligned. And that means you are an individual within your marriage. And I believe Vernell may have said that, we are still individual. You're not joined at the hip, but the direction you are going in should always be on the same map. There are some people in relationships, they're not even on the same map. They're not even on the same hemisphere, and I don't know which person's coordination went off, but at some point it did, or maybe it never was aligned in the first place. And so there should be no dead ends in your relationship. You both should be willing to take the wheel and or ride shotgun at any time. you know you should always know that the values that you have, the values really need to line up. That's a deep conversation that people should have before they say I do. What do you value? What is your brand? Do our brands even connect, or are they so far off until it doesn't even make sense? Your union should at least make sense. It should make sense on so many levels. And so making sure that your compasses are always aligned is very, very important. Yes, definitely. So that is number four. Yes, OG brand. God is able. Oh, for sure. For sure. Trust in the Lord. Number five, put the work in. So, this is another marriage advice, piece of advice for you in your marriage, present or future. Put the work in. A wedding is not a marriage. And I think a lot of people, because of the effort it takes to put a wedding together, they think that's the hardest part. That is not a marriage. Many couples open that top button and let their real selves spill out after the wedding. They really expose who they are, and they become that new husband or that new wife after the wedding. The wedding is an event, but the marriage is a lifetime. And those are two different things. It's not about the party. Mm-mm. People look at that and think, oh, this is going to last forever. But what is the work that is being put in? You don't stop trying after that big event. That's really when the real work begins. I see it's me. Angie is saying James and I never had a disagreement until we had children, because he was raised one way and I was raised another. And we had to take a little of the both of us and raise our children. Yes, it's me, Angie. That's true. Like I said, even if you grew up right next door to each other, the way you were raised is going to be different. Even if you have very similar backgrounds, it's still going to be different. And my husband and I realized that that's why we did had a trial baby and got a boxer puppy the first year of our marriage. And I believe raising that dog together definitely taught us the value of teamwork. And it also taught us responsibility. We both knew we had this, and it wasn't just all on one person or all on the other. And it really helped us. I really believe that it exposed us in many ways, and it got us to talk out certain things that I don't know if we would have been as open to talk about once we really did have children. So definitely. Yes, God is so real. He is. Yes. Amen. All right. So put in the work. The next one, number 6, is keep each other guessing. So this one, it goes into putting spice into your marriage. Have some flexibility, be willing to try different things. Periodically step out of your comfort zone. Oftentimes when we are dating, we'll pretend like, oh, we want to do this, we want to do that, but maybe we really don't. And then when you get married, if your spouse is still saying, let's try this and that, and now you're like, no, I'm not going to try it. But don't stop trying new things. I know for my husband, and I mean, unfortunately now he's not able to do as much, but before, back in the day, he would at least try something once, even ice skating. And I don't know if you've ever seen a 326-pound, 6'6" man on ice, but that was hilarious. And he went around the ice ring one time, and at least he tried. But keep everyone guessing. Don't do everything the same old. Put some spice in your life. I know a friend of mine's, for her husband's birthday, she wanted to do something different. So she rented out a tree house, and it was at a vineyard, and had a wonderful dinner catered in there. And it was something totally different. That is adding spice, is taking them into a whole nother environment, giving them another experience. Some of those remember when memories, creating new ones once you're married is important. So, definitely keep each other guessing. Let's see. Vernell is saying you put in the work when you are dating to learn the person, get the data on the person, go to their parents and see what kind of person that person is. He or she, see if they're reliable. Yeah, absolutely. You're not just, I'm not saying that you're marrying a family per se, but you are marrying into that family. You are going to be part of that family's legacy. When they have their family tree, you're going to be on that tree. So who are they? How are they to each other? And I know that's one thing I admired about my husband. His parents, they actually met in college, and I loved the way that they were as husband and wife. And, that's an experience that I know my husband was privy to growing up, and that he wouldn't be far removed from how they were with each other. So, I really definitely looked into that as well. Yes, God is love, Evangeline, definitely. Smart Cookie is saying being with an open minded person helps a lot. Some people are strictly traditional and not open to new ideas or possibilities. You are right. And you know what, Smart Cookie, that's one of those types of personalities that you are going to either accept or not. And oftentimes you can kind of see if that person's like that, hopefully, when you're dating. Because if they don't have an open mind and are not open to new ideas or possibilities when you're dating, I don't care how successful they are in other areas in their life, be it their professional life. And oftentimes that's what it is. A person will kind of give the other person a pass. Oh, well, they're successful at this or that. That's their career. That doesn't mean that they're going to be successful as a spouse. If they're not open when you're dating, 9 times out of 10, they won't be open when you are married. So definitely keep that in mind too. And Pandy, I see that you have a heart emoji and the headphones. I'm not sure if that's a signal to me about something. But if you can let me know, that would be great. Thank you. And let's see. The next one, number 7, is space. Space. You want to give each other space when needed. Sometimes you need to step off to clear your mind, body, and spirit and take back your energy. Because a lot of times, you might be exerting a lot of yourself into your relationship or into other areas of your life, and you don't want it to affect your marriage. So give each other space. And doing that, we will often recharge, and it'll make you even better for your spouse. It can be going to a quiet place to meditate or read, or it may be to run errands solo. I know a lot of couples, especially in the beginning or in the middle and the end, always are they literally do everything together. When they aren't working, they do things together. Now, my parents, they owned and operated a business together for 41 years. They traveled all the time together. However, they still gave each other their own space. And that is very, very important so that you won't feel overwhelmed in the relationship. You won't feel stifled. You want to give that person an opportunity to really recharge, like I said, and be very engaged in the relationship. Okay, Pandy, I see you stepped away but still listening. All right, thank you. I'm gonna have to learn what these emojis stand for. But yes, giving each other space is so, so important. I know for me, in my personality, I need to step off a lot. And when our children were a lot younger, I'm going to say before they started school and in the younger grades, um, I would have to go away for like 2 to 3 times by myself. And I would go to a local spa resort here in Charlotte. It's a beautiful spa resort. It's called Ballantyne. And I know I always went at some point in December before Christmas. And my husband would stay with the kids for the whole weekend when I would go. And he understood like my personality needed to just get away, not talk, just unwind by myself. And literally, when I would go to that spa, I might say 10 words the whole time. I already pre-ordered whatever spa services I would get. So I would just show up. Food, I would just kind of order. It was wonderful. I just really stepped off, and sometimes you have to do that in a marriage for sure. And Vernell is saying space is necessary, dating or marriage. Yes, and for dating too. I know for me, I wasn't the type of person, especially when with my husband, I knew right away. I want to say, not, yeah, I knew right away that he was the one, but I wanted to make sure, and I didn't want to be a wifey. You know how people will say, I don't know if they still use that term, but they would call people wifey. That's when you weren't married, but you acted as if. So I never would, if I went to his condo, I never did dishes. If I looked in and it was a mess, I would never go inside. I would be like, no, I'm not going in there. Because I was not going to get caught up in that. And I would do things still with my friends. Some people, when they are dating, they will only be with the person they're dating. I still went on vacations with my girlfriends, because we weren't married. And so you just definitely need that space and that opportunity to grow, because sometimes when you're so stifled with that one person, there may be a moment when things kind of ease up and then your eyes start to open and you look around and realize like, wait, there's so much better out here. Wait, what was I doing? Why was I so hung up? So you definitely want to just have that space, not space and opportunity to do whatever you want, but just space to just be who you are and be able to have that opportunity to be who you are. All right, let's go to let me take Vernell's down again. Thank you, Vernell. Let's go to number 8. And number 8 is love language. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to tell you, Love language is so important. Learning each other's love language. This actually, if it wasn't for the advice I shared for number one that my mother had given, this would have been number one, or at the very least, I should have put this at number two, because acts of love are done with good intentions. They really are. But if you don't really understand that the act of love that you are receiving is your partner's love language to you, then you might not receive it well. So, understanding how your spouse prefers to give and receive love makes the gestures that much more special and meaningful. And yes, Vernell is saying you should read What is Your Love Language. There is a book on love language. There's also a workbook. There's a quiz so you can understand what your love language is. Knowing your love language is so, so important. I didn't learn my love language or my husband's until probably 10 years into our marriage. And it made me feel bad because of the way that I would sometimes receive his love language to me. You know, he is a giver. He likes to um, provide. So he does things with gifts and food and things like that. And I would always, I'm very frugal and I'm a minimalist. A lot of people wouldn't say I am, but I am. And I wouldn't receive his gifts well. I would be like, why'd you get this? Or, I didn't want this, or that's no, this is, if I asked for a watch and a specific watch, he would go, but he would always get me the most expensive of the watches that I had said I wanted. But I may have wanted the least expensive one, and I didn't receive it well. And once I realized that that's his love language, it made me love him that much more because I understood. And that is so important. Yes. And Vernell again is saying, you need to read What is Your Love Language. I think that when couples before they get married, they need to read that. I don't know if couples are still doing premarital counseling, but I know we did that. And in the Catholic faith, I believe they call it precania or something like that. But in a lot of Baptist churches, the pastor, especially if you're going to get married in his church, definitely will make you do pre-marriage counseling. And it's not just a one and done session, it's many sessions. And they go over a lot of things like your thoughts on different aspects of your relationship. It could be financial, family, just a whole host of things that really have you thinking less of a single person, but more of a married person in a special union. And I think that Love Language should be a book that's assigned to couples before they get married so that they can read it, discuss it, and understand it because it is very powerful. Absolutely. The next one is friendship. Yes, so you must maintain a friendship. I remember early in my marriage, at some point, I don't remember exactly when, but I realized that I not only love my husband, but I like my husband. And I think that's the difference in a marriage. Friendship with your spouse is unique because just like the marriage, it's till death do you part. And so that friendship is the fun part of your marriage. And so many people, you'll hear them say, I just don't like him. I just don't like her. And that's not how you should view your spouse. Heck, sometimes you might feel like the thing that they did you may not have preferred, but that doesn't mean you don't like them. It's that action, that moment. But when you have that friendship, you have a person that's not only your lover for life but also your friend for life. And if you can view your spouse in that way, I believe that is some great advice to give to anyone in their marriage. All right. And I only had 10. And as you can see, which is so amazing to me, that none of these were advice that you shared, but these are just things to think about. And the next one is identity. So you have your own identity, and sometimes you can have a spouse that has a very strong professional influence. I'm thinking about, being married to someone in professional sports. Like my husband had a very strong professional influence. And when you are married to someone like that, you can lose your identity because people don't really care about you. I remember my husband and I, when we were dating, we went to a huge wedding. It was an Italian wedding in Brooklyn, and it was the most beautiful wedding besides my own. But at the time, he and I were just dating. And I remember, eh, I mean, it was as if he was the one that got married. That's how people were clamoring around him. And I remember a group of young girls came over to me. And at the time, he was playing for the New York Giants. And a group of girls came to me and was like, "Oh my gosh, what is it like to be dating a giant?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I could just tell you what it's like to be dating, my husband's name." And at that moment, I realized, like, wait, this is a lot. Because, from where I'm from, I'm no I'm not no chicken foot. I don't know if that's a word or a thing to say, but I'm not loose change, where I'm from. I feel like I have a lot to offer. I know I do. But being around someone with such a strong professional influence can be challenging to your own identity. And I've seen it time and time again for many wives, especially of professional athletes, of doctors, mostly professional athletes and doctors, really. And it's just really interesting. So, within that, you must carve out your own identity. Even if you are building a legacy with your spouse. So, after my husband retired, we built businesses together, and again, those were basically his dreams, his goals. We discussed them and I was in alignment with them. Absolutely. I believed in them, and I knew that they were going to be great, and I did want to be part of it, but I still needed to have my own to represent who I am and who you are, and so you can have your DNA all over it. And so I have been very blessed over the past 15 years, I want to say, to carve out my own identity and make it huge as well. And, but that's not always easy. And that's why you have to be highly aware that is happening. Um, it's amazing to be in a room and you know how much you have to offer, but yet no one's checking for you. It's just really interesting. So, definitely don't lose yourself in your marriage. Don't lose yourself in being a parent, because, there may be a time when you're not married or not a parent anymore. Then who are you? So always, always have your own niche and understand what it is and do the best you can and leave your legacy so that the life that you live will speak for you, not the life that you lived with or because of your spouse. So that is very, very important. Let's see. Vernell is saying, Smart Cookie is saying, you can't lose yourself, and your partner their needs to do their part in making you feel special and not less than. Absolutely. And that's one thing I can definitely say, for my husband, he never let me feel less than. I mean, I've heard some terrible things that some of the other husbands had done in public with their wives and such. And my husband always will pull me by his side. This is my wife, Sherry. But the interesting thing is that the people around will try to, you know, overlook you. And I know in those arenas, he typically would want to leave soon after we arrived. But it's just really an interesting thing. And that's something else that needs to be communicated as well. I think oftentimes my husband was more attuned to that than I was, for sure. Welcome back, Life with Marlene and Pandy's Hair Candy. And let's see, Smart Cookie is saying, I remember when my college sweetheart got accepted into pharmacy school, I became jealous and felt as though I hadn't accomplished much with just a bachelor's degree. And that's the thing too. So luckily that was your sweetheart, but then if it's your spouse, imagine that. When you're married, you can't have those feelings because their success is truly your success too. But I definitely get that where you may have felt like, man, is what I'm doing enough? But that's when you still are carving out your own niche, because where you're at and what you're doing is, until you decide to move forward. What I'm doing is by no means, I want to say financially as abundant as what my husband has done, but what I'm doing is just as abundant and great in many other ways. So I don't feel like I'm less than, or that, oh, his stuff was so much better. No, I feel like I'm killing the game out here. I'm changing the game for people's lives. I'm making a difference, a huge impact. And I love it. And I just am so fortunate to be able to do what I love on a daily basis. Absolutely. Let's see. Life with Marlene, and let each other have a life outside of each other. Yes. You know, um, it's not about you can only do it if I can do it. That's that you have to be able to let each other go and have that trust. That's where trust comes in, and again, I believe it might have been Smart Cookie when she was saying that a relationship she was in, it was challenging because the trust, she couldn't believe what they were saying. And you have to have that trust because you want to know, out of sight doesn't mean out of mind. It doesn't mean you can go amok. It doesn't mean that you could do whatever. No, out of sight just means that you are, living your life still, but I'm still top of the mind because I'm the one that's going to be home, or they're the one that's going to be home, and having that respect. And I feel like, let's talk about that respect piece a little bit. That respect, on so many levels, I don't think people understand how important it is until it's too late. When I think about people that have had infidelity, that is so disrespectful to the spouse. So one of the things I always say in any relationship, whether I was just dating someone or not, listen, if you feel like you need to step out, that means I'm not doing something right. If I'm not doing something right, then before you step out, let's have that conversation. If I can't do better, first of all, if I'm doing the best I can, that's the best I can. So that might mean we need to just call this finished right now. But don't step out and I'm out here in these streets and hearing about it. It's, sometimes people are real grimy and they will want to be around you. The other person might want to be around you, try to befriend you, just kind of like figuring out who you are so they could be more like that to get that person. And that's just so disrespectful. That's putting someone in danger, because the last person to know will be the one that is being cheated on. And they don't know. They're out here living their life, not realizing. And it's just so disrespectful. To me, it's more respectful to just kind of listen, let's cut our ties where we're at because this is not working. But definitely having that life outside does not mean that once you're out of sight that you could just do anything. That is not the game that is being played right now. Vernella saying, with your identity as well, make sure you got a counselor, get a counselor once a month to talk to someone to keep your mind straight on your identity, as well as being a union with someone. Yes. And I don't know how many of my NFL sisters are listening, but when your spouse retires, and this could be a professional athlete, it could be someone that has worked for 31 years for one company, it could be a person coming out of the military, it could be anyone that is retiring after having had a professional career. I highly recommend counseling because that's a huge transition. That is something, that's another world, a new life that they are about to encounter. And you still need to you still need to be able to navigate with each other within that new realm. So for instance, for me, after 10 years of playing and my husband retired, I was used to the summer, the majority of the summer, him being at camp. Or I was used to during the season on Saturdays, him not being home because they leave, whether they have a home game or away game, by Saturday afternoon, they're gone until after the game on Sunday. I'm used to when they have an away game for him to come home late Sunday night. I'm used to him being home all day Tuesday because that's their only day off. I wasn't used to every single day him being home. And so, there's some new normals that are happening. And even if a person's not retiring, periodically there's going to be a new normal. Once you have children, that's going to be a new normal. Once you don't have your kids in the house and you're empty nesters, that's a new normal. Once you start having maybe some medical challenges, that's a new normal. So definitely counseling, do not be afraid of that in your life. Now, just like that advice, that first advice, no, you're not going to share everything with your family and friends. And what I've noticed, especially in my situation, my family and friends, they don't get it. I do talk to my NFL sisters because they definitely understand our lives are very parallel. However, I don't go even in that, into too much detail. But the thing is, a counselor is someone that, has an open mind. They aren't going to be judging you, and they can give you some great strategies that you may not have considered. And that's very important. Life with Marlene is saying, my mom was outgoing, but my dad was an introvert. He let my mom have her me time and girls' trips. Yes, they were married for 52 years. Yes, and that is amazing. And he also had trust in her. And that's how it is, I want to say, with my husband and I. He knows that I'm an extrovert. And so, and I get that he, especially at this stage in his life, he's not really trying to go out as much. So, he understands I'm going out, but I'm not. It's not. There's nothing to it. There is nothing to it. I am coming home for sure. And I'm glad that you had that experience, Marlene, to see that in your parents' relationship. And Smart Cookie is saying, yes, it's putting the other person in danger. Again, people lie and are greedy and just won't reveal how they truly feel. Yes, and we're talking about that trust again. Absolutely. I see Trina's motivation is in the building. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you. We're almost wrapping it up, Trina, and I hope you were able to catch some of it, or maybe you were here, but we just didn't see you. But either way, you are welcome to be here. And please, if you didn't catch it all, be sure to catch the replay. Thank you for thumbsing up this live. I appreciate that for sure. Yes. All right. I see everyone is speaking. All right. So we went through 10 different types of advice. And I hope that you all were able to capture a nugget from this information that I shared. And of course, there's so much more advice to give. And I appreciate those of you that had given your advice that you received when you were getting that best marriage advice from family and friends. If you are already married, I encourage you to reflect on the advice you've received over the years. Think about it. Don't take it for granted. I remember at our wedding, we had an African ceremony at the reception. We had 400 loved ones at our wedding. It was so beautiful. And the ceremony that we did, our wedding coordinator, she read some African proverbs, and we, as she did that, we swept around our guests. So 400 people stood in a circle around us, and we had a broom that my mother crafted, and it actually is still hanging up in my home right now. And he and I together swept around our family members, our parents, our siblings, godparents, great aunts and uncles. They all came to the microphone and gave us some beautiful, beautiful marriage advice. And as they did that, they tied ribbons around that broom. Once they did that, we laid the broom down and jumped over it. But I just remember receiving that advice. And I often, even almost 28 years later, will reflect on that moment as if it was yesterday. So, whatever encouraging advice you receive, definitely reflect on it forever. It's not going to fade away if you don't let it. So, always know that those were words of wisdom, that advice was given with love. If you're of age to be married or will soon be married, talk with married couples in your circle and listen to the advice that they'll share. Sometimes you get that advice from people that are already in it, just like, what Marlene had seen. Maybe a young couple might talk to her parents, and her father can explain why he does that with his wife because he trusts her, and the importance of trust and love and things of that nature. So talk to couples in your inner circle for sure. Before I close, I see there's some more conversations. I do Smart Cookie. My IG handle is Coach Sherry J. J like Jim. J like James. Let's see. And Trina's motivation, we'll have to catch the replay trying to redo my hair. All right, Trina, I understand. Yes, this is the weekend. Oh my goodness. I remember when my daughters were young, the weekends, we used to call it hair weekends. I gotta do some heads today. So thank you. Thank you for listening in. I appreciate you. Well, you all, that's all I have for you. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and please come back again. I'm going to be going live more often for sure. It has been my pleasure sharing with you more information about the best marriage advice. I hope that you were able to gain some nuggets. Thank you for sharing. I'm not going to read everyone's name that's in the building because there's been so many, and I appreciate each and every one of you. For those of you watching this on replay, thank you. Leave a comment for me. Please give this video a thumbs up. And if you are not yet part of my team, I invite you now to join. Again, I am Coach Sherry. And until we speak again, please stay safe. Thanks for being here.